Welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast that shot the sheriff and then actually did go on to shoot the deputy as well.
I love it.
I'm your host, Brett Bodie, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Samantha.
And today we'll be talking about the movie Overlord from 2018.
Yes.
This movie, had been on my radar for a while. I was interested in seeing it, but Mel's recommendation that we watch it had me finally pull the trigger. So Mel, why don't you go into why you wanted us to watch it?
I watch so much stuff. Like, I'm always consuming movies. And I do like to go to the theater to watch, especially like horror movies or action movies, like something I think would be served well at the theater. But as I said, I don't like to know anything about movies going in. And so this is one I did see at the theater, not knowing anything about it going into it, which was such a pleasure. And I really liked it. And I have been trying to get Brett specifically to watch this movie for, I guess, since 2018.
Yes.
And this podcast was my excuse. So here we are, as I finally got y'all to watch this movie that, I mean, I would never say this is like one of my favorite movies, although I will say there are parts of this movie that are some of my favorite scenes in movies. But we could talk about that later.
Yeah, so let me just introduce the kind of conceit of the movie briefly. Like I said, it came out in 2018. It was actually produced by the infamous J.J. Abrams and his Bad Robot production company.
And I do want to talk about that because I do think this movie has J.J. brain disease. But we can talk.
Well,
I agree.
yeah.
And I loved that part.
So it's technically, and I didn't really realize this just from watching it, but reading the Wikipedia and a few other sources, it's technically an alternate history action horror movie because it's set in a version of 1944. It's the night before D-Day,
Correct.
the storming of the beach at Normandy. It's set in an alternate history where Executive Order 9981 was signed 3 months prior to the invasion at Normandy. And so I didn't know what this was. That was the real-life Executive Order 9981 was issued on July 26th, 1948.
Oh, okay. So post-World War II.
Yes, by President Harry Truman, and it abolished discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, or national origin in the United States Armed Forces. So it essentially led to the integration, or it also said somewhere reintegration, because there had been, of course, I think there were black soldiers in World War I, but they were in their own unit.
I was really happy, Brett, that you said to look that up before I watched the movie, because it's a relief. It's a relief. It's a relief that it's an alternate timeline where that has already happened, because I will say, as a Black person, it does get really tiresome always having to put in my brain, oh, there's racist. Oh, we're going to have, the element of racism here. Oh, they're going to hate this lead character because he's a Black guy, and he's also going to have to fight racism while he's having to fight Nazis or whatever.
Right.
So it felt like I could enjoy the movie that much more because I see representation of, well, not a Black woman, but, at least a Black man who is equal. And nobody has to fight about that. And that's not part of it. And while I understand it's important to discuss those dynamics, and it's important not to forget, we do need to we need to have that taught. I won't get onto that rant, but
Critical race theory.
DEI. But
I think it's
I get tired.
But of course.
Yeah.
And do we need a attempt at serious discussion of the nuances of racism in 1944 in a silly action horror thriller?
I mean, the movie is not about that.
No,
Like,
at all.
And that's great for me.
Yes.
I
You know
feel
what?
like I really
yeah.
got to enjoy this movie for what it was, and I got to see a Black lead character.
And there was friction between that Black lead character and other members of his
Squad.
Unit?
platoon, squad unit.
Gang.
Yes, his gang.
His band of friends.
His band of boys. But it
His boy
wasn't
band.
his boy band.
His boy band.
Remember when the boy bands stormed the beaches at Normandy?
Yes.
Yeah. But it wasn't anything to do with his race. It was how he performed in basic training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was nice because that's not a race-specific character trait. That's just, it was good conflict for our protagonist. They didn't milk it too much.
What's interesting, because, like, okay, so this alternate history piece, I don't think they ever say it in the movie. And that's the thing is, like, I watch this, I'm just a stupid. And, like, I don't know when anything was anything with war. I'm not a warhead. Like, know about this shit. If you
You
had
are
told
quite
me,
sour, though.
I know. I was like,
I
the
am.
candy.
I'm sweet and sour. But, like, if you had told me that the boy bands had already been integrated at that point, I would have believed you because I don't know shit.
Yeah.
But, like, it's interesting to me that the director was Julius Avery or JJ or whoever put out that information into the world probably did it just to shut up annoying
Yeah.
dude bros.
Yeah.
Who are
No,
gonna,
this is inaccurate.
who are always going to point that shit out because it's like, oh, you wouldn't have had this then. This is inaccurate movie. The movie has fucking zombies in it. Like, of course
Right.
and it takes place where
Spoilers.
D-Day.
Yeah. I was like, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But, like, the movie takes place in, like, to my knowledge about D-Day, they did not have to bomb a underground church comms unit in order to make D-Day possible. Like,
They've not told us about that at
This
least.
is a fictional.
It's not public
Those
knowledge.
are still redacted.
Yes.
We don't know if this really happened, but
Not confirmed nor denied.
I think it is interesting that they released that just to be like, shut the fuck up and watch
Yeah.
the movie.
And from what I understand from just reading a couple interviews, they only did that because they wanted to cast, what's his name, Joven Adepo in the lead role.
And they just didn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Good for them.
And so, yeah, so they were just like, well, this can explain it easily if anyone asks, but, like, we just want this actor to do it.
And if you have a problem, fuck off.
Yeah, and his sergeant was also played by a black man.
Yeah.
That guy who's in, like, so much stuff.
Yes, I know. I saw him
So
and I was
much.
like, I don't know his name, but my goodness, I've seen him in a million things, and he's always a treat.
I'm like,
So,
oh,
yeah, so Joven Adepo, not probably saying that right, is the lead in this. He is British-American, apparently.
Condolences.
Yeah, sucks.
British.
He was in Watchmen, the miniseries. He was Hooded Justice in the flashback episode.
It all comes back.
Yes, in
Okay.
that beautiful,
I like
sickening, amazing flashback episode. So that's, I think, where I know him from most. And I thought he was a fantastic protagonist in this. I'm really glad they ended up casting him because I think he's very good.
And then our other lead is Wyatt Russell.
Wyatt Russell.
Who is
Royalty.
good at being
Acting royalty.
Oh, I was,
I was going that way. Goldie Hawn and
Yes.
Kurt Russell.
I mean, he's a nepo baby, is I
Yes.
guess the less nice way. But
And
I think he's good at
I
being that one thing.
My exact thought was, this is a really good use of Wyatt Russell's talents
Yeah.
and or limitations. I liked him in this role. I didn't have an issue. I can't say that about some other projects I've seen him in.
Can I tell you something funny that I saw him in recently?
Yes.
So, as a big fan of monster shit, I did start watching the Godzilla TV show that recently came out. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
it's called like
Monarch.
Monarch. It's not good. But they have Wyatt Russell in it. And the whole time I was like, oh my God, he just sounds like he's trying to sound like his dad. Like, so clearly. I'm like, oh, he's doing an impression of his dad, like more than normally.
Right.
And then they reveal that he is just playing the younger version of his dad.
See, that's like all I knew about the show before. I haven't watched it, but I knew that they were playing the same
I didn't know
character
Kurt
at
Russell
different
was in
ages.
the show. And so I was watching it and was like, and then they like moved to the modern time and they show him
you're
and
like,
it's like,
oh.
oh, okay.
Yeah. I think I extend, it's funny because he really benefits with me by being the Nepo baby that he is because I just love Kurt Russell so much.
Yes.
And I like Goldie Hawn too.
Yeah.
So like the goodwill I have towards them is then partially extended by me to their son, even though he's nothing special.
I'm not a Nepo baby hater.
I'm not either. I'm like, welcome to every industry
Yeah.
for all of humanity.
how
Sorry,
it
it does
goes.
kind of suck, but it's not just a Hollywood problem.
But it's more Hollywood because in order to be in the arts where you're getting paid nothing when you start and you're living in an expensive place, if you're a nobody, it's going to be so much harder to get those opportunities.
Yeah, if you're a nobody, you better be a rich nobody so you can
Jam your way in.
and outlast the people who can't afford
Right.
to stick it.
Well,
in
even
for the
just
long haul.
connections, because if someone's known you your whole life, they're going to give you a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Let me cut all of that. Who knows?
We'll see.
But let's get into the movie. So the way this movie starts, like I will just say, we're gonna spoil a lot. All of our episodes are spoilers. Deal with it. Go watch the
Spoiler-ful.
movie.
Yes, we always recommend you watch the movie before you listen to the episode, or at least know that it's getting spoiled if you listen to us.
What I will say about this movie that makes it kind of a loved and, I don't know, like interesting one for me is I absolutely love, capital LOVE, the first half of this movie. Like the first half of this movie to me is so perfect. That opening scene gives me chills. I cannot think of a way that would make that better. It's like starts with like your Predator scene where you're introducing, and I think part of why they have such a diverse cast is because it just feels like Predator to me. Like they just want to have these different characters that are gonna respond to things differently and play off each other in ways that are gonna be fine within an action horror movie, right? Like you have each of your little characters with their little personalities and their props and whatever, and you start with this, and then you just have this huge explosion. So
Right, they're introduced on a plane. They're flying in.
like, and it's not just one plane. Like they
Yes.
have this whole group of planes that are flying into enemy territory, and we see all of our
Occupied
group,
France.
occupied France, and we have our whole group is like, you know, tied into their seats with their harnesses, and you know, some people are throwing up and some people are scared and they're kind of giving each other shit, and
Given voice, our
Wait,
protagonist
right.
shit in particular for being, I guess, shitty at basic training and not being good with the rifle, not being brave,
Not
or
being
whatever.
especially spectacular.
Yes.
Or it's not evident.
Yeah, and at one point he loses his little Lucky Charm necklace on the ground, and someone snatches it and uses it to make fun of him. They're like, "This isn't gonna help you,
Was it?
you stupid bitch."
What's his face? The asshole the whole time. The asshole you
I think
end up
so.
loving.
the Italian.
Yeah, what was his name? I'm looking
I
at
don't know. He's just the Italian guy. I thought it was. I have a note here that says
give him a name.
that we have, going against stereotypes,
Tibbet?
we have an angry and annoying Italian character.
Yeah, they really bucked stereotypes. There's a neurotic Jew.
There's a neurotic, skinny,
Nebbish.
nebbishy Jew, and then you have an annoying, angry Italian.
I think he's Tibbet.
I don't care about their name.
Okay, well,
but yes.
He might,
I care about
I
his
think he
name.
is Tibbet as well.
But I think he's the one who picked it up right and was
I think
giving
so.
voice some
Well,
shit.
he's the one who's
Yeah.
bullying him the most.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's the guy from Smile and
Oh, yeah.
Umbrella Academy season 1. Oh yeah. Just saying.
Editor Brett here. Sorry to interrupt, but Mel was a fool, and I was a fool to believe them. John Magaro, who plays Tibbet in this film, was not in fact in Smile. That role was played by Kyle Gallner. We don't speak ill of our colleagues on this pod, so let me just state that this kind of embarrassing, moronic buffoonery will not be tolerated. But fortunately for you listeners, this is the first, last, and only mistake that will ever be made on this podcast. Anyway, back to the episode. So I, never having seen this movie, I was watching that opening scene unfold, and my exact thought was, God damn it, I wish I had seen this in theaters. Because I really thought it was spectacular.
Yeah.
I really loved that whole opening with all the planes, and there's explosions, and there's like, you know, machine gun fire from the ground up through the floor. And it's visually spectacular. There's a beautiful shot of all the planes flying into a cloud that reminded me of Mad Max Fury Road, where they all drive into the dust storm. and it scratched a similar itch for me as that shot. And I was just watching like, man, this is the good shit.
Yeah,
This
it's
scene.
incredible. And they have all these planes and everyone's chatting and then shit just starts exploding. Shots are coming up from the ground. People are dying and screaming. Everyone's panicking.
Well, we do have, Captain What's-His-Face saying, here's the mission.
Yes,
here's
the
what we need
sergeant
to do.
introduced the mission
Sergeant, there
before
we
the
go.
worst of it comes, and it's we need to take out this radio transmission tower that is in at the old church in the town square of this small French village, so that we can provide air support to the soldiers landing on the beach on D-Day.
So we have our ticking clock and we have our very specific, clear mission.
And like, for us non-history people, like, D-Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
You may not know all the complex factors, but like, they picked a really clear ticking clock where the stakes.
Even me,
Right.
the dum-dum,
Yeah.
knows,
That it's important for
Normandy
D-Day
Beach.
to happen.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
on the plane, here we are, hopeful about our sergeant's leadership.
Yes, because he's
Another strong black man. And we get introduced to Wyatt Russell. We're introduced to him. He's looking jaded.
Yeah, so he's our mysterious explosions expert.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, and he has recently been reassigned to their squadron.
Yeah, they don't know him.
Yeah, they don't know him, but he's their explosions expert. And there's some rumor, right? Did I pick this up that he had like killed somebody in his previous troop? I think I'll cut that out if I'm wrong, but I think they said something.
No, leave it
I
in.
think keep it in,
Stand
especially
by,
if you're wrong.
Stand by your word.
I definitely think I heard that.
There was...
Not that it was ever confirmed, but we hear someone whispering that rumor. that
It
he had
seemed
killed
like there
someone.
was definite underlying bad gossip about him.
Yes, his reputation precedes him.
Yeah, he's dangerous and
Yeah.
serious.
Kind of
and
dangerous bad boy. But
Everyone's-
he's also an expert, and the sergeant is like, this is your guy. Like, if I'm not the guy, he's the guy.
second in command. And they're all sort of joking around. And even, the sergeant corporal guy is like, has some good cheer with them. And then you just have the moody, sort of mysterious Wyatt Russell sulking in
Just
the
like
corner.
looking out the window, brooding.
Yeah, and then everything just gets blown to shit.
Yes. And someone just gets is standing in the center and they just get fucking liquefied
Oh.
by machine gun fire through the floor. And that part is kind of heart-wrenching because the medic runs in and is like trying to save him and he has to be forcefully returned to his seat and they're like, he's
That's
dead.
it, yeah.
Like, he's so dead. And the medic's like, no, I can save him. And they're like, you can't, buddy.
And one of the reasons this scene looks so good is they used a lot of practical effects, which I think according to IMDb trivia, which is not always true.
No, it's an unimpeachable source of
And yet
truth in our modern society.
It's always my first source I go to anyways. I love IMDb.
But they said that they really blew up front of a plane and had stuntmen jumping through fire.
It looked like that, so...
Yeah, so you basically have everybody is trying to get out of these planes and
Because at one point, the back of the plane just gets blown the fuck off, and it's a fiery inferno back there, and people are trying to crawl to the front where they can be correctly deployed to skydive to the ground. And I loved that, because you see people, falling into the
Falling
inferno and
back,
just,
yeah.
they're probably dead. But then the best case scenario is that you climb, you make it to the front, and then two guys just throw you out of the plane to the side. You're not thrown through the fire, but you're still thrown out into the greater fiery inferno of just all these planes getting shot down.
gunshots flying through the air. It's so anxiety-inducing. It's so
Yes,
effective.
it is.
I had two thoughts during it. Number one, of course, J.J. Abrams, you hate planes. I don't know. I was thinking Lost. I'm like, how many other things? I don't know. But
Fringe
are you...
starts with a
Yes,
plane crash.
Fringe, one of my absolute favorite shows, Fringe. But my second thought was this your experience skydiving, Brett?
Oh, yes, I went skydiving. Fun fact about me, for my 25th birthday. And it was exactly like this movie. Well, I loved skydiving and I felt secure in it because I was strapped to an instructor who did all the hard stuff. When I went skydiving, they said, you want to throw your arms and legs out so that your torso is pointing to the ground, so that you're already in the right position for the parachute to deploy.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that and it was very smooth. But it's much harder without
He's
someone
like
else strapped to you. And,
hyperventilating. Like you can
Yes.
hear him
And then
flipping out.
oh, that's so
falling
good.
into
Oh.
water. And then I was so happy he had his knife because, of course,
Me
he's
too.
finally getting up out of the water. And then he's in his parachute.
And it was another, much like Alien, another little birth imagery moment. The way he cuts himself kind of out of the sack of the parachute and emerges as a full soldier on the mission.
Yeah, he's not little
like that.
baby bitch Boyd who can't kill a mouse. Now he's a real man.
Yeah, well, and just before we get into when he demonstrates this, I really loved seeing a protagonist, because there are so many instances of flawed protagonist, gritty anti-hero, or just like almost the audience is let off the hook when the protagonist chooses to make a morally questionable decision that we would also make in that situation. But this guy sticks to his moral guns,
Yeah.
even to the detriment of himself and the mission, because his moral compass is so strong. And I really enjoyed that, because I was like, watching along, like, yeah, I like to think I would do that. And then we got to certain moments, and I was like, I cannot say that I would have made that choice that he did.
Yeah.
Like, I may have let this happen, or,
He's just nice.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but I appreciated seeing someone who almost indicts the audience just by being so morally unshakable.
Yeah. So I like the next sequence as well. So basically we have our stragglers of survivors are sort of regrouping. They're stumbling upon each other.
The journalist.
Yes. The guy,
The novelist.
the sweet boy writing the book.
Yeah. Jacob Anderson.
Yeah, then there's the
love him.
photographer.
No,
Whose thing is
I thought
that he's
those were
a
the same guys.
photographer.
Oh, no, they're different
No.
ones.
There's book writing, sweet man. There's photographer.
Okay, I thought
Annoying
there's
Italian.
aggro, annoying Italian.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of guys that they have to have so they can kill them off in
Yeah.
dramatic ways.
And they sure do, because they're crossing a field, and the sweet, he just got his character moment of like, I'm writing a book, and when I get back, I'm going to publish it because my mama wrote cookbooks. And then he steps on a mine and
Explodes.
just explodes.
We all knew.
Yeah, of course.
We all knew.
When his character, when that was already dropped, I was like, oh, this guy's fucking dead.
Yeah.
And they didn't make me wait for it.
No. I did appreciate they didn't
Yeah.
drag that out.
No, they didn't.
Bye.
But we get our first sort of hint to what this movie might be because before they get to the French village, they stumble across this fucked up, weird animal carcass.
Yeah.
Like
It's
a
just
dog thing.
It's like a pile of viscera that was maybe a dog, and then they're like, it's a jackal. Right? It's in the Bible.
Okay.
So you start getting a hint because, as I said, I went into this movie not knowing really what it was. And so you start getting that idea that there's something fucking weird happening here. And then they stumble across a lady. Her name's Chloe or something.
Chloe.
Some French lady, and she's scavenging. She's stripping the corpses of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Boyd speaks a little French. Boys.
Voice?
Oh, I don't know.
Voice.
B. Yeah, and I did like his little. Sorry. B. I did like his.
There's a B in Boyd, too.
I know. B. Well, it was me. This was me compromising. I was like, shorthand, he's B. Yeah, I am a little weird. Thank you.
I didn't say
I
that.
was-
Listen to our intro.
That was another thing I really liked. I was like, we have a black character, and then he's talking about how he learned French from, or maybe this was later, but
It's later, but whatever.
I'll just say it now.
Yeah.
But he does speak French, and we later learned that he learned it from his grandmother, who was from Haiti and then moved to Louisiana. And I was like, okay, I like that little backstory snippet.
I did, too, and it was great.
That makes
'cause-
sense.
Yeah, because it came up because I think Chloe was like, your French sounds different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's when he says that. And I liked that, too. Also, during the sequence, there's another beautiful shot that I loved that was haunting of various corpses hanging from the trees by their parachutes. And it was really creepy and sad, but very beautifully filmed. And I really enjoyed that shot.
Yeah, it reminded me of another really beautiful, sort of creepy film called Jurassic Park 3.
Guys, I'm sorry, we're shutting down the pod. This is our last episode. Goodbye.
But yeah, So they get to the village, and this is where the mission can really start. And on that note, do we want to take a quick little ad break?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a quick little break. Our episode today is brought to you by Slay the Gay Away.
Oh.
Be so fabulous and have so much gay sex that you shoot the moon and become straight again. No prayer involved, just slaying, yas queen, sex in the butt, scissoring for days, and you just get it out of your system, and you return to church and live your godly life.
Your normal life.
Yes, you return to your normal lifestyle.
Aww.
Yes, slay the gay away. Use offer code queer and gay and slay
Use
for a 10% discount on gay sex.
use coupon code "This was always a choice you could make" about your lifestyle.
No repentance involved. All right, we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a great time over the break slaying the gay away.
I'm straight now.
Wow, you
Me
really,
too.
oh my God, you guys really speed ran that thing.
Yeah.
Sure did.
I'm still working my way through. I think it's just taken a lot to get it out of my system. You know what I mean? Mom, don't listen to this part. I'm a virgin.
Okay, so we had a lot to say about the beginning of this movie because, as I said, the beginning of this movie is so perfect, in my opinion, for what it's trying to accomplish. You meet everyone you need to meet. You hear what our mission is. You see the stakes. You know they are in a extremely dicey situation. And by the end of it, we get to where the rest of this movie is going to take place, which is in this French village.
Ciel blanc.
Oh, is that what it was?
It means white sky in French.
Oh. So we're following Chloe, and there's some, there's like an old lady narc, and there's some drama there, but eventually we get into Chloe's house, which is going to be sort of like the good guy HQ for the rest of this movie.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't know if I could trust you, and now I do, and now we're in my house. But my aunt is upstairs and she's sick, and my brother is around here somewhere.
Yeah, there's little boy baseball
Yes.
is around. I just think of him.
Yeah, little baseball boy.
We see this baseball a lot.
Paul, I think.
Whatever. The little baseball
Little boy baseball.
Yeah.
No one has names in my head. Now, you're learning something about me through this podcast that I actually don't learn people's names. I just learn like definitive trait about them. And then inevitably, if they're a real person in my life, I will accidentally call them my nickname about them
no.
to their face at some point.
I love that.
What's my
I want to be there
nickname?
when it happens.
But no, you're like my real friend, so I do know your name's Sam.
Fine.
But
I know your name. Sean.
So we're in this house. We have sick Aunt, and there's some horrible like rasping noises coming from. Oh, don't go in that door. That's where sick Aunt is. And Chloe says like they're taking people into the church, which is where we know our guys need to go in order to blow it up to make D-Day happen. So we know that the Nazis are like taking people. They took the aunt. They're taking other villagers into the church. And Chloe says that she doesn't think there's anything magical happening there, like the Nazis are saying or implying. She just thinks they want an excuse to kill them. So that's where she's at. She hates these Nazis. And then we get to meet one.
Oh, he's lovely.
Yes, we sure do. There's a knock at the door, and there is Mr. Nazi Man.
No, that's his name.
Mr. Nazi Man.
Mr. Main Nazi Man. And he's got his little troop, and I think they all come in, but he dismisses them quickly, and then it's just him because he is dropping by
To sexually assault her.
to sexually assault Chloe, and obviously this is an ongoing thing because he's like are you going to give me what I want, or are we going to like do this the hard way?
Like
And the
her
hard-
brother is
Yeah.
upstairs hiding, and it's awful.
The hard way is taking the brother to the church where she knows when people come back from it, they are all fucked up.
Yes.
So she's like, okay. And then our boys.
Thank you.
I almost said Boyd.
They're in the attic and they're watching through the
Boys.
floorboards while this is happening.
Yeah, he like wants to go down there and start shooting all these Nazis and compromise their mission and lose the day. And Wyatt Russell is like, stop it. Like, just let her get raped, you dum-dum. But he doesn't, because he's our real hero. So he stops it, and they apprehend the Nazi guy. Something interesting, though, about the Nazis is they don't have swastikas. So they basically, we now have our boy band, and they have captured a Nazi higher-up. Like, we
Yes.
know he is some kind of, like, perhaps the guy running this show. As
He's
far
at
as
least high up.
the army wing of it,
Yeah,
or
and,
the
yeah, and there's like a mad
military wing.
scientist in there as well.
Yeah, we have like a Mangala style
Yes.
scientist, but I think he's operating somewhat because and we'll talk more about the church in a second, but like there's sort of two things happening there, right? You have the sort of military part of it where you have the comms tower, and then you have something else happening,
Yes.
and that's where you have the Nazi scientist stuff. So the next part of the movie, after Boyce almost jeopardizes the entire mission to save Chloe, is he goes on a little discovery mission into the church. But that's not his intention at first. He's just doing some, like, reconnaissance.
I think he's trying to get the other two from his squad who've already gone. Wyatt Russell's like, go get them and bring them back so we can
Yep.
regroup here.
Right.
We've got to focus
Yeah,
on
so
our
he-
tied-up Nazi leadership here.
Yeah, so he's doing some additional recon, trying to get them back just so they can all regroup. But that's when he discovers the church and sees from a distance a little preview of what they're doing. Because I think that's when they lead two prisoners out, and then they flamethrow them.
Yeah.
And they're all fucked up, too. Like, they're
Yes.
covered in, like, boils, and they're like, like, they're all, like, zombified, and they're just kind of not doing great. But this next sequence is my other favorite part of this movie. Is so there's the whole sequence where he is watching from outside. There is just, like, mass dead bodies. There are these dogs. Like, they're flame-throwing corpses. And he ends up getting chased by a dog. He jumps into a truck to get away from it, and he is just on a pile of dead bodies, a lot of which are people from his squadron or whatever, like the
Yeah.
people who were in the planes, presumably.
Yes.
And the truck goes into the complex. So now he is in there. And he just starts walking through, and it is one of my favorite moments in cinema. Like, I'm telling you, if this movie continued the way of the opening scene and this scene, it would be one of my favorite movies of all time. And I'm not saying I dislike the ending. I just dislike it for this movie.
And maybe it just doesn't reach the heights of those two sequences that you like the most.
Well, it just isn't a horror movie anymore by the end, in my opinion. In some ways, it just becomes more action schlock. But in this, it's like atmospheric, scary horror.
Yes.
Because he is walking through. The first thing he sees is just like a wall with like peepholes.
Yes. And he's hearing
In
like
it.
weird noises from the other side.
It's like concrete walls that you
Yes.
cannot see through with just little jump scare peepholes.
And you'll never guess what happens when he looks in one.
he gets jump
What
scared.
happened?
Oh, God.
But there's like a guy in there, and then you see the Nazi doctors come and they like antagonize him, and he like flips out inside and is like crazy and smashing his body against the wall. And
Right. Which is where we really get solidified that these are like basically zombies slash maybe it's like a rage virus that also gives you boils. There's maybe some superhuman strength.
There's human testing happening.
Yeah.
This is when we
Yes.
really learn that, is that there is human testing happening. They have clipboards, timers.
Yes. But also that these test subjects are not lucid anymore. Like they're gone.
Right. And then he continues, and it's like as he goes down, there's like new levels of horror, and it just keeps.
Yeah, there's some really fucked up shit that he finds.
Yeah, like he finds like a bag that just like has a guy in it, like a bag of goop.
Yeah, it's just like suspended, hanging from the ceiling, and he kind of cuts it open and
Another chain and rain room.
yes, listen to our alien episodes for Chain and Rain Room, and then there's just like a head.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, with
Love
what,
it.
What else was it like?
Spine.
Just
Yeah,
head and spine.
And she's
hanging
like,
off the end.
help me.
She's
help
chatting
me.
away, and it's very Return of the Living Dead.
Yes. I
There's
love
a
it.
lady zombie in that's similar.
And she's like, I hurt or whatever.
I can feel myself rot.
Yeah, but
So she
this
says
lady's
Living Dead.
just more sad. She's
Yeah.
just like, help. And he's just like, how anyone would be, in that he was just like shocked. It's like he doesn't know
Yeah.
what to do. He wants to help people, but how do you help a suspended
Yes.
head,
Right.
like beyond his help? But then he finds Rosencrantz and Guildenstern,
Yep.
the Jewish
He
guy.
finds Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, the two minor characters from Hamlet.
He finds Rosenfeld. He
I think it is
finds.
Rosenfeld, yeah.
Rosenfeld.
I'm
think.
Jewish. I'm allowed to say inappropriate name
I'm excited to see where this
gobbledygook.
goes.
I can be like this, okay? But he finds the Jewish guy who has like a horrible like tube in him, and they're just like pulling it out. And the funniest thing to me is like through the rest of this movie, that guy just like gets better.
I know.
And it's like I'm such a like literal hypochondriac. Like I would never be emotionally okay not knowing what was pumped into me and like what happened to me. But he bounces back. So they get him out.
And so he's able to save Rosenfeld. They escape the church
Yes, through like a grate.
and they get back to the house.
HQ.
Yes, back to HQ, Chloe's house.
And I will say, like, again, to slightly derail, but like I am pretty freaked out by Nazi human experiment doctors. Like, as a Jew, I think that's like one of the things that just like most like causes a visceral reaction in me is like Nazi experiments.
Yes.
And so that there's this whole sort of like Mangala angle here. Because this is believable, in my opinion, as much as this is a science fiction, magic, horror, action schlock movie. If those Nazis had the magic clay, they would have 100% done that shit.
Absolutely.
100% have the 1,000-year like
1,000-year
Reich.
Reich plan.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
They would. So
Absolutely.
So yes, but one thing we forgot is Boyce does a little sneaky grab
Yeah.
of a vial of juice, which he had just seen in his tour through hell.
Right.
Yep.
Like seemingly resurrect a dead body. I really love the ramp up to how much we learn about the serum and the zombies.
Yeah.
There's a gradual, steady but gradual reveal of the true extent of the horror of what this serum does. And I loved that, like, you're kept at arm's length at first, you get little glimpses, then you see some crazy shit, but you don't quite grasp the mechanics. And then in this next scene, we see the transformation happen right in front of us.
Right, they're questioning the Nazi leader guy, and he's not being super cooperative.
Torturing him
He's
too.
tied up, they're punching
you know.
him, and Boyce doesn't like the torture, so he keeps trying to intervene, and they're like, bro.
Why it's like I gotta do what I gotta do.
Yeah, and
like,
this was
hello.
one especially where I was like, I love the moral compass, but I personally would just let them torture the Nazi.
I was like, yeah.
I can't say I would voice a single objection.
Right. And
I
it's
was like,
clearly
I guess it's,
on mission too.
yes. And I'm like, you can't even say, like, he's a grunt following orders. Like, he's a rapist fuck
Yep.
higher up. This guy is just the absolute worst scum of the earth. You can't torture a guy like that, please.
He's not the mouse.
Whatever, libs.
Because there is a point where Boyce kind of tells his story as to why the other squad members were mean to him.
Oh, the mouse.
The mouse. So, like, when they were in basic training, there was, like, a mouse that was in their barracks, and Boyce was told to kill the mouse. And instead, he just, like, kept it alive in his shoe, and then the mouse just shit everywhere, and they all got in trouble for it. So Boyce got this reputation as not being, like, hard. And that's, like, another thing I love about this movie is there is this sort of two leads that are projecting different kinds of, like, masculinity, right? Like, I think it's so great that there is a Russell that is portraying the cowboy energy
Yeah.
of like what it's the Sopranos. We love the Sopranos on the pod. This whatever happened to Gary Cooper, like this strong silent type. Like you have that stereotype of man. And then you have our lead Boyce, who's more soft-spoken, but he has his moral compass. And
He's a protector.
He's a protector.
He's very much a protector because he turns out he is plenty capable of violence, etc. I think he just needs to feel that it is righteous.
He's not
He
going
needs
to kill.
purpose for
Yes.
it.
He's not going to kill a mouse.
Yes.
He'll kill a Nazi, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have these kind of quiet moments where you do get some of the backstory. You have Italian guy is sort of like against his will bonding with baseball child.
Oh, yeah.
Like
It's very sweet. I loved
That was
it.
cute.
So we get to a point where they leave the Nazi like supervisor behind with photography guy, which is like, this is the worst guy you could leave him with.
Yep.
Right.
They, like, what the fuck? Don't leave this guy with.
Right, I'm like, y'all are making fun of Boyce, but like, photography guy can't do shit.
He really can't do
He
shit.
can take photos, charge his phone, eat hot chip, and lie, and that's it.
Oh.
And within,
It's that meme.
Sounded good.
Yeah.
It's
oh,
a
I don't know that
meme.
meme. Oh, sorry.
but within about 30 seconds of them leaving him alone with the photography guy, the Nazi like gets the jump on him.
Yeah,
Well, he
he's
was
like-
asleep.
He's pretending to be unconscious. And the guy's like, oh, wake up, we gotta move you, because they want to take Nazi with them. And obviously, he's faking so he can get the drop on you. You moron.
Yeah,
I was like, I haven't been through
and boy,
basic
did
training.
he.
I would know that.
I am so paranoid about everything.
Right.
I would absolutely be nowhere near that Nazi.
No.
Well, any Nazi, but you know.
But certainly not with my guard down, like,
No,
oh, buddy, are you okay? Wake up.
Yeah, so basically the Nazi gets his gun and shoots him, and I didn't feel that bad for him because,
No.
bruh, be better.
Yes, I know. But I actually thought his death was kind of poignant just because he was like, where's my camera? Can I have my camera?
Yeah.
And they're like, you're going to be okay. But like, he was not going to be okay. He was shot in the chest. But just like, he's just holding his camera and then he dies. And I'm like, you know what? That's a pretty well executed version of like, this guy has one trait and it comes back at the end. And in his death, that was the thing that mattered most to him.
Yes.
So it's okay that that's the only thing we knew about him.
Yeah, and then
Boyce said, I'm the protector. I'm going to save you.
I have a magic serum I just found that totally did not seem to have adverse side effects, so I'm going to inject it into my buddy.
While Nazi guy's watching, like rubbing his hands
Yes!
together, twirling his mustache, and I was like, Boyce, read the fucking room, bro.
It's also very funny to me because so we then have this horrific sequence where the photographer guy gets reanimated, is feeling great, and then very quickly just starts like flipping the fuck out and like hulking out on everybody.
Yes.
And then like horrific shit, like his bones are just like breaking, his head's like not on right.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
not
his
good.
body like is all just maladjusted. So he's
Yeah.
like cracks all his bones out of place.
His like veins are popping out.
And I love that he goes from like calm and lucid at the very beginning, and then immediately it just ramps and just keeps ramping up. And I love that they get him before it even ramps all the way up. Like presumably there's more horrible stuff to come.
We see it later.
Yeah. But so I love that we get to see that close up, the process of the transformation. And then luckily Boyce is able to, he's on the ground, and then Boyce like demolishes his head, smashes his
Oh.
head in with the butt of his rifle.
But I think before that, the Nazi goes, 1,000-year Reich needs 1,000-year soldiers. And that just,
Yes.
creeped me out.
And I think that Nazi probably could have successfully escaped during that moment, but I think he just wanted to watch this.
Oh, yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, because you can kind of see him in the background, as you said, just sort of like watching
was
what
into
he
it.
knows is about to happen.
Yes.
Like it's not perfected yet, but they're getting there.
When he kind of wants to see the reaction too, he wants to see, the Allied forces be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This is bad for us.
Yeah. And then after this scene is basically where the movie loses me a little bit. And I know it's not maybe everybody's opinion, but up through that end of that sequence, I'm like, this is a perfect film. And then it just sort of, in my opinion, the tone changes of the movie.
Okay, I was still definitely into it, at least through the next scene, because then Nazi guy is able to escape.
Yes.
He slips them as they're like leaving the house, and he's like about to die. He's been
His face is like
his
fucked
face is
up.
super fucked up.
But he also gets the brother, the little boy
That's right.
Paul.
Yes.
Little boy baseball.
He
Little
snatches
boy-
baseball
little boy baseball.
Yes.
It's key
Takes him
because
to the
it ramps
church.
sister up, Chloe.
Right.
And I loved her the whole end of it. I was like, okay, badass bitch, let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
I
wants
was
to
very
go.
much Team Chloe. Well, that was something I liked is I was like, I'm Team Chloe, and I'm Team Boyce, and I'm
Yeah.
Team Wyatt Russell, and I like seeing it's like they all have the same agenda. They all do want to get Baseball Boy back and bomb the church, like, and complete the mission. But they have different orders of priority.
Yes.
Yes,
Chloe's is
yeah.
brother first,
Yep.
the soldiers are mission first. And I love that. They're all working towards the same goal, but they still have major differences just because of their priorities.
Yes.
But yeah, so the scene that I loved that's right here is when Nazi guy brings brother back to the church. He stomps into the room with the other Nazis, and they're like, "Bro, you don't look so good."
Your face
And
is
he
fucked
grabs,
up.
he just like grabs a vial and injects himself with the whole thing. And they're like, "We've never tested it on a living subject before." And then he grabs another one and injects that entire thing into himself too. And I just loved that. Because it establishes so much about his character. He's not just evil. He's not just a true believer in the Nazi cause. He's also an impulsive, crazy man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even know what's going to happen, but he's like, I'm going to do it as hard as anyone has
Yeah.
ever done it.
When the Dr. Mengele is like, bro, calm down.
Right. Yes. And that was great because I didn't know when we was first introduced if he was going to be our main antagonist through the end of the story. I thought there may be a bigger bad revealed. And I loved that it was just that guy, and he just ramps up throughout the movie.
Yeah, he's like a video game villain. He starts flashing red and he turns into his next form.
And it's freaky looking. His cheeks like
Oof.
Oh, he looks like
fucked up. It's got like a hole in it.
he looks like Grant from the end of Slither.
He does.
I've not seen Slither. I'll look it up.
We'll get to it.
We'll watch it on
Oh,
the
no.
pod.
Sure,
Okay.
We'll get to it.
That'll be the next Mel
Spoiler.
makes the Mel makes them watch things episode. So now we have our new mission. We're coming into where the time is of the essence. Like, they need to blow up this tower before like 10 a.m. or something. There's like some time that
When
they
the
have
timer gets to 18, something gets to 18. Some little dealy bob.
And so you have Boyce is kind of with Chloe. They want to save little boy baseball first. We have Wyatt Russell. It wants to go find the comms tower to blow that up. And then you have the Jew and the Italian uniting forces, as we do best, outside with like a machine gun, just causing a distraction. Oh, they also have that great little sequence where they like capture a Nazi and like put a grenade in his mouth.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
And like drive him in because they need to cause a big distraction so they can slip in.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically have the Italian guy and the Jewish guy are outside blowing shit up in this crazy action schlock. And then from here
It is
out,
fun. I do enjoy all
from
that.
here out, the movie is super fun. And I will say I would have loved if these were two separate movies that just did this the whole way through either way. But this is the JJ brain rot, is that like he just loves to change the genre of something halfway through it. So yeah, they are inside this like little chapel.
And they kind of split up. Wyatt Russell is going to plant the explosives.
Because that's his priority.
Yes. Because Chloe is doing great. Chloe's making her way through. She's like, I gotta find my brother. She's like, killed somebody, but then a Nazi does get the drop on her, and he's pointing a gun at her. It's kind of like, oh, she might be able to beat him and go on, but it's looking dicey. And luckily, that's when Boyce happens to come up, and he shoots the Nazi from off camera. And then that's when they team back up.
This is what my notes are for
Okay.
this section. Boyce and Chloe find Paul, and he's fine. Chloe tries to get Boyce to come with her because they're in love now. But
Yep.
Boyce got a job to do. And then I have, oh no, it's Ryan Reynolds from X-Men Origins Wolverine. Because that is truly what the zombie looks like that then attacks Chloe and little boy baseball. He's like naked, not naked, but he's like there's a lot of skin. You know,
Yeah.
he's like
Yeah.
bald and slimy and has like his face it ain't right.
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, he just reminds me of the first iteration of Deadpool we ever saw, which was
Yes.
from the film classic X-Men Origins, Wolverine.
Which I saw in theaters.
Me too.
And left
I
being
did
like,
too.
wow,
That's the only time I saw it.
what a big pile of shit.
Yeah,
That movie was fucking awful.
terrible.
Oh yeah, this was one. I think it was this scene where, because eventually she's able to like get her gun to shoot him through the head. Right? She kind of
Yeah.
pushes the gun. I misread the scene and had to go back and rewatch it because I was projecting what I was wanting to happen onto the scene, and I was like, I don't think that's right. But to me, the first time it looked like the zombie himself was like almost fighting to regain control of his own humanity, and that he had put the gun to his own head to like put himself out of his misery.
Yeah, that would have been
which
better.
I thought would have been a lot
Yeah.
better.
That would have been better.
And then I rewatched it and I was like, that's not what happened.
I mean, in my opinion, the movie is now stupid fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's not smart, it's just fun. So, like, she's now in a recurring nightmare of mine, which is being chased in a new place by some kind of horrific monster you don't understand.
God.
But she stumbles across a flamethrower, and luckily she somehow knows how to use that.
And she goes full Ellen Ripley
It was pretty great.
with that flamethrower, and it's clearly an homage
Yeah.
to Alien and Aliens, but
Yes.
I didn't mind it.
It's fine. It's just very goofy at this point. And now we have Wyatt Russell gets to have a Resident Evil boss fight against the SS guy.
And earlier, Wyatt Russell had, when Nazi guy was tied up and Wyatt Russell was torturing him, he was like, he leaned in close to his ear and said, I'm going to win this one. Just like, I'm going to torture you. We're going to get the information. There's nothing you can do. And there's a callback to this because the Nazi guy then gets his chance to say, like, this time, I'm going to win. And I love just their delivery for both of those lines are so good that you really believe it both times.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, I mean, he really did win the first round, but I really think Resident Evil boss is going to win
Get
the
you
second.
on this hook.
Oh, yeah. He gets meat hooked. He gets Texas Chainsaw Massacred.
Yeah, and while that's happening, Boyce is like trying to just destroy all this fucked up shit that he found at the beginning of the movie. And he has a showdown against the Mangala guy and just like chokes him out.
Yeah, the Mangala's got him at gunpoint, and he's just wrestles him to the ground and stabs him with a knife that was, I think, just lying there.
And then, I mean, we have all these different sequences happening at the same time. Because now I think they go back to the guys outside that are blowing shit up, and they're sort of like having to retreat a bit. Like they're losing their upper hand. So
And they see Baseball Boy
Yep.
walking in, and he's like walking through the line of fire, basically. 'Cause Baseball Boy is just like lost and dazed. And our kind of asshole Italian
Tibbet.
guy, yeah, he gets his little hero moment because like he's like, well, I can't just let this kid
No.
that I also bonded with just get fucking shot.
Yeah.
And I liked that. He kind of risked his own life to save Baseball Boy.
Those are the feels I like.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
gets shot, but in the movie
worth
spot,
it.
which is in like the shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think like would in real life just explode your shoulder. But in
Yes.
movies, it always is just like you just put like a wrap on it.
It was a
you're
clean shot through the right side and missed the heart
Yep.
and lungs and everything.
It's so weird how it's always like that, but it's fine.
Walk it off.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Wyatt's like meat hooked, Boyce is shooting stuff.
We learned that the serum is the tar that runs beneath this village and has for centuries that has been refined by running it through people's bodies. That's how they make the serum. That's what he says.
It's so
So
gross.
it's tar like injected into people, and then they extract whatever that is from the bodies, and that's the actual serum they use.
And we see some of it, so it's like, oh, that's probably what these like bag people are.
Yes,
And like,
that
but then
was
you
my-
also know there's other experiments happening, like head ladies. So it's like there's
Yeah.
all this different shit happening, which is again hashtag Nazi shit. Like they be
Yes.
like that.
I have such a strong memory of going to the Houston Holocaust Museum on a class field trip in 7th grade, and there was one little section where it was set apart. It's kind of tilted away, and it was all the like photos of experiments and stuff with twins. And we're not going to get into it, but just because when you were talking earlier, Mel, about how the Nazi experimentation is especially like viscerally awful to you, I'm like, as a non-Jewish person, me too. And I remember seeing that, and most of my classmates didn't even look because they read the warning and
Yeah.
were like, I'm good. Like, we're 12. I don't need it in my brain. But I just felt I I really felt like I owed it to the victims and survivors of the Holocaust. Just the rest of the museum set such a tone for me that I was like, I don't want to see it, but I'm going to look at it
Yeah.
just to be one of the people to bear witness.
Most-
to what
Well, and I
happened.
think it's important for our country to see that too, because hello, slavery and testing on slaves.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, we mentioned
So-
Tuskegee earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, go support your local Holocaust museum because they basically all have that exhibit because it is
Yes.
so shocking. So yeah, at the end of the movie, everything's kind of ramping up. We have like big boss battles. And
Ford or Wyatt Russell's able to pull himself off the meat hook and inject himself with the serum so that he can get the power
Yeah.
to defeat.
because they
or at least
cannot
stall.
beat this guy.
Yes.
And he's on mission still. He's like, well, I've got to do what I've got to do to complete
Yes.
this.
They need to blow this shit up, and he is like the archetype that he needs to be to complete this mission. So he's gonna sacrifice himself by injecting the shit that he has now seen what it does, but he does it anyway so he can beat this guy who's become his sort of like nemesis
Yes.
in this movie, and then Boyce can complete the mission and get out.
Wyatt Russell's kind of like, now, and Boyce shoots an oxygen tank, which explodes and sends Nazi guy falling into the tar pit. And then they kind of run for a bit to a gate, and Boyce has just gone through the gate, and Wyatt Russell slams it and locks it behind him. And Boyce is like, no, open the gate, you have to come with me, like, we're gonna finish the mission. And he's like, you're gonna finish the mission, I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a monster now, and like, I just need to be blown up, and it's okay, just go do it, it's fine.
Go.
Yeah. And so Boyce finally, takes him a minute, but he finally goes, and he's running out while everything's exploding.
Yeah, it's like D-Day is saved and America saves the day again. We did it, y'all. America saved the day.
Oh, and, sorry, real quick, as Boyce is running and escaping, that was a oneer, which is a continuous shot with no, at least, obvious cuts. It's pretty long, too. It's like a minute of him running through hallways, and it's a steady single camera shot that moves fluidly as he's running and escaping. And it is really well done.
It's just so silly to me. Like, I know it's so well done and it's very cool because I love explosions. But, like, if you have explosions that close to you.
Well, that's every movie.
But yes, but it's
Yes.
like constant. Like, there's
That's
so
true.
many. And they just keep blowing him forward and they keep blowing him forward. And it's like endless explosions right behind him. And it's like, this man would never be able to hear again. And
No.
the whole back of his body would be burned.
Yeah.
But
Well, this is set in an alternate history,
That's
and
true.
they established how explosions work in this earlier, when a landmine blows up and they're all like within 5 feet of each other, but the one guy gets liquefied and everyone else is
fine.
entirely fine.
So yeah, Boyce now has terrible extreme PTSD and is like wandering out.
Yes. And the church collapses, everything's good, but they finally are able to rejoin their fellow soldiers, and they're like, all right, like, you completed the mission, and tomorrow you'll be assigned to C unit, or whatever, and it's just like, because as audience, we're like, oh, thank God, like, maybe they're just gonna, like, get a medal and go home, and, like, they went through so much, and it's like, nah, bitch,
Nope.
you're right back in it.
You completed your mission. That was this mission. On
Yeah,
to
now the next mission.
your next orders.
And then it ends with like a rap song, but I kept thinking that the credits should have been like Rage Against the Machine
Yes.
because it ends
I think
that
I
stupid.
I think in my brain I was expecting to hear the Rage Against the Machine song. And when it didn't, I was like, something's wrong here. They're playing the wrong music over the credits.
They needed it to be like when Neo just like flies
Yes.
off.
Ooh,
That's what I
yes.
think that's the
Yes.
opposite of that I always picture. I don't know. Maybe I share JJ's brain rot, because I kind of liked the uplifting tone of the ending, although I didn't find the characters being so full of pep and joie de vivre at the end to be believable. But I just thought it was nice just in the context of, like, World War II, the mission is really important, and, like, it just really shows how much these guys have bought in to the importance of what they're doing, to even be like, okay, I was hoping to go home, but I guess we're on to the next mission.
And they are maybe like 3 of the most didn't want to be there at the beginning guys.
Yeah.
Because Boyce was not he didn't sign up. Like, he was recruited, right? Like, they showed up at his house and were like, you're now serving. Which World War II was one of those wars where you had a lot of people that joined. Like, my grandfather lied about his age so he could fight,
Oh, yeah.
right?
There were like 15-year-olds there.
Like, it was not like Vietnam where people had to be dragged
Yes.
to do it, but
And
Boyce
people
was.
weren't burning their draft cards for World War II.
Yeah, but Boyce did not want to do it, and now he's like, "Hoorah, let's go!" And then you had like the Italian guy who was like snarky, want to go home, but he's like, "All right, I guess let's do this." And then the sort of nebbishy Jewish guy is also there, and he's like, "I'm fine now. Don't worry about whatever was pumped into me.
They're looking at each other like, so glad we're all fine.
We're all just fine."
Maybe we've been shot and pumped full of whatever, but you know what? Hoorah.
Well, they saved Chloe and the boy. Little baseball boy.
Little boy baseball.
Little boy baseball.
So yeah, so that the reason I wanted you guys to watch this movie is I thought you would really enjoy it, and I know that like I kind of rag on, I would say the last like third of it more than anything, because I love really good atmospheric horror movies, and it is that up until a point where it just goes all in on like goofy schlock, but I do also like goofy schlock, and so I thought you would enjoy this.
I did enjoy it.
I also did, and there was something about the premise, because I always know too much about movies before I see them, and I'm fine with that. But I knew it was World War II, action, horror, and zombies. I didn't know the specifics, but I knew that. And somehow that premise just didn't really speak to me. So even though I was like, I'll probably enjoy it, it just was never top of my list. And then watching it, I was like, I should have watched this sooner. I really enjoyed it.
I knew nothing about it, and then had my little prep from you, Brett, to say, oh, it's alternate timeline, alternate universe, whatever. And I had no idea we were going to get to zombies, and I was excited about it. I was like, okay, I love this shit. I love a little turn. So, thank you to Mel.
Haha, you're welcome. This is all about me.
Score one for Mel.
I did it.
Good job.
No one's keeping score, but
And I got to see some love eyes at each other. Like, I'm really happy they didn't go in. Brett just cringed a little bit.
starting.
Chloe-
The shipping has begun.
No. I like weirdo shipping, but I really appreciated that Chloe and Boyce didn't like. They just left it at eyes at each other. He did his protector thing, like saved her from getting raped. That day, which I really appreciated, but I'm happy they didn't do some weirdo they fell in love and they were together forever. It was like, that's not what this was about. They got some eyes at each other. Great.
And that's almost what I enjoy more in something like this. I'm like, don't
Yeah.
give me a subplot. Give me a couple moments of just like, maybe there's some romantic tension. And that's it.
Yeah.
We don't need a kiss. We don't need
No.
them to talk about it just a little bit. Then, yeah, I actually didn't mind it.
Well, she had a character with motivations outside of romance.
Yeah.
She did. She
A
was
woman
very much a...
with motivations
Yes.
outside
I mean,
of romance.
I will say, still does not pass the Bechdel test, but other than that, none of the women
It
in
doesn't.
the movie talk to any other women.
If only
in the
Chloe
movie.
had been able to talk to...
Help
Her
me,
aunt?
lady.
Yes, no, to... Yes, help me, lady. No, to spine and head, lady.
Would that count? Would
Yeah.
that pass the Bechdel test if she just...
If they weren't talking about a man, then yes. And if head and spine lady had been given a name. There must be two named female characters who discuss something other than a man.
Yeah, no, it did
That's
not.
to pass the Bechdel
Did not
test,
pass that. But it is literally a war movie. And war movies famously are just about dudes rock doing war.
I thought they did a good job giving us that one female character. They at least made the effort to give us one, and she was a good character in her own right. And I think it would have been annoying to try to shoehorn in multiple female characters, because that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there wasn't room in the plot or the structure.
You know what? It did pass the Bechdel test. Because she talks to that bitchy lady at the beginning who narcs her out.
Oh, Narc Lady!
This movie's woke.
And I
This
think she
movie's
is
woke.
named, actually.
Oh,
yes.
I don't remember her name, but yeah, I think
Her name's
Narc
like
Lady.
Madam Bitchface or whatever.
Yeah, Madam Bitchface.
And they
And they don't talk about a man because she's like, you're out past curfew, bitch, and I'm going to call the Nazis on you.
So I know there's a time limit to
Chloe's
it, but
like,
I'm gonna
"Thanks."
say yes. This passed the Bechdel test. This is a woke movie.
Applauding.
We did it.
That's it. That's a feminism W.
Yes, a big W for the ladies. I will also say, like, she's also not the emotional heart of the movie. That's
No.
Boyce.
Yeah.
So she does
Yeah,
not have to,
yeah.
because I do get annoyed about that too, when it's like, men don't know, but women have the power of love.
Oh, I know.
I did just throw up in my mouth a little bit.
Me too.
And it happens
Because
a lot.
because it rang so true what you said, because you do see it all the time.
You see it all the time. And she's like a badass bitch from the beginning.
Yeah, and
that we
she's
see her.
more kind of like, her emotions are more locked down. She seemed very much like she would just like come across a Nazi in the woods while she's scavenging, and she's like, "Oh, you want to come over here and sleep with me?" Psych, you're stabbed.
Bye.
I hate when that happens.
I love when it happens.
I love love.
You need to use more of your slay away.
Oh shit, you're right. All right, getting on Grindr now. We gotta go. I gotta take a walk in the park.
Oh.
If you know what I mean.
Watch out for jackal corpses. So, wrapping up Overlord, this is what I would consider a hidden gem, which I do want us to cover on the pod. I love this movie. My husband and I rewatch, as I said, the first half of this movie quite a lot. And even though it's not quite a JJ movie because he just produced it, it has his stink all over it,
Sure
but in
does.
some good ways. Like,
Yes.
I would say it has the best and worst of JJ.
Yeah.
It has the sort of like cannot stay to one tone or genre, which is, I think, some of the best and worst things about J.J. Abrams. But it also has the sort of like big, bombastic, overwhelming, anxiety-inducing scenes that he did so well in things like Fringe and Lost.
Again, planes.
Well, it doesn't always have to be a plane, but yes.
Planes.
Okay.
Planes, chains, and rain. Those are the 3 tenets of this podcast.
All right, so where can people find us?
I'm so glad you asked. You can find us on Instagram at Queer and Loathing Pod. That's A-N-D, not an ampersand.
One word. No, what are they called? Bottoms?
No bottoms.
Hyphens? Bottom hyphens?
Okay, I'm trying to
Underscore?
slay the gay away over here, and you're saying no bottoms. You're not being an ally right now.
I'm so sorry.
No underscores, maybe what you meant.
Yes, no underscores.
And you can also follow Mel on Letterboxd.
One word, hater tot.
And that's it for now. If you could
Like,
give
subscribe.
subscribe, give us 5 stars on wherever you're listening to this. That would really help us. Tell a friend.
Watch Overlord.
And watch
enemy.
Overlord, because I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Me too.
So until next time, I'm queer.
I'm loathing.
And I'm Samantha.